Welcome back, everybody, for our sixth deep dive. This time we're going exploring the world of AI and genomics, but with a bit of a twist. You know, the sources you sent over are actually structured like, well, a podcast outline. It's called Next Service Podcast. And I got to be honest, this is a first for me. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting format, actually. We get to kind of peek behind the curtain a bit, see how a podcast episode, maybe even one like ours, gets put together, how they decide what's important to share and all that. We've got these sections like Chesterfield and Justice Jib. I mean, the names alone have me curious, which kind of hint at different perspectives, maybe some surprises along the way. And of course, there's the BB section for book recommendations. Always a fan of those.
Okay, so let's dive into Chesterfield then, shall we? Seems to be all about Canadian AI news, and right away, bam, a potentially huge number. $1 trillion. $1 trillion in potential AI data center investments in Alberta over the next 5 years. Could Alberta really become like a global AI hub?
It's a big goal for sure, but maybe not totally crazy either. Alberta's got a few things going for it. Cheap electricity, that's a big one for data centers. And the cold weather, it helps naturally with cooling all those servers. Plus, the government is really pushing the industry. Tax breaks, making it easier to get things approved. But, infrastructure is only one piece of the puzzle. To really compete globally, Alberta needs to attract the best talent, encourage innovation, and figure out, all the ethical stuff around AI that's always evolving.
And speaking of ethics, this next story definitely caught my eye. Several Canadian news companies are suing OpenAI for copyright infringement. They say OpenAI basically bypassed security measures to get their content to train AI models. What kind of precedent could this set for the future of AI and copyright law?
This lawsuit brings up some really fundamental questions about how AI systems learn and who owns the rights to the data used to train them. If these news companies win, it could completely change how AI developers get their data. Maybe they'll have to start paying licensing fees. It's a case that could have huge implications for both the AI industry and, anyone who creates content.
All right, let's move on to something a little more upbeat. There's news about the University of Calgary looking into using AI in education. Now, this has potential to be revolutionary.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine personalized learning plans for every student tailored to their needs, AI tutors that adjust to their learning style, even automated grading systems, which would free up teachers to actually, interact more with students. Of course, there are challenges, making sure everyone has access, dealing with potential bias and algorithms, and making sure, human teachers are still essential. But the possibilities are definitely exciting.
I agree. And Chesterfield keeps going. We see Canada investing $1.4 billion in its own sovereign computing infrastructure. Now, what exactly does that even mean?
Sovereign computing infrastructure, it basically means a country can develop and maintain its own computing resources.
Yeah.
Data centers, networks, software. It's becoming really important as countries realize they need to control their own data and AI capabilities. It's a trend you could call techno-nationalism.
Makes you realize how AI is affecting everything on a global level. And it's not just about the physical stuff either. The launch of the Federal AI Safety Institute in Montreal, that shows how worried people are about the risks of AI and needing to develop it responsibly.
Right. The Institute's focusing on things like disinformation, cybersecurity, election interference. It shows how dangerous AI could be if we don't keep it in check. Governments are starting to see that they need to be proactive about this to make sure AI is developed and used safely and ethically.
And we can't forget about all the conversations happening around young people and social media. Ontario and the federal government are both trying to pass new laws. TikTok was even told to shut down in Canada. National security risks, they said.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation for sure. Concerns about data privacy, especially for young people, are front and center. Then there are questions about what role the government should play in regulating these platforms and how that might impact free speech. It's a real balancing act, trying to protect people while also encouraging innovation in this space.
Chesterfield ends with a kind of poignant message about the need for Canada to manufacture its own semiconductors, a message from someone who passed away last year.
Yeah, it reminds us how important semiconductors are. They're the building blocks for everything digital, including AI. Whoever controls their production controls a big part of the global tech landscape. Canada, like a lot of countries, is realizing that depending on other countries for this tech, it can be risky.
Wow. Chesterfield covered a lot. It's amazing how AI is tied into so many things in Canada. I'm really curious to see what Justice Jib is all about.
Right, Justice Jib. This one takes us around the world, all the legal and ethical challenges around AI. It's a lot to get through. But, these discussions are really important with AI having such a big impact.
It can feel a little overwhelming, to be honest, like drinking from a fire hose. But like you said, it shows that AI is becoming a real force. So where do we even begin?
Well, let's look at the different ways people are trying to, regulate AI. The EU's AI Act, they want to categorize AI systems based on how risky they could be. Stricter rules for things like healthcare, law enforcement. The UK, they're focused on transparency. Government has to be open about how they're using algorithms. And California's ADMT regulations, that's more about protecting consumers, limiting how automated systems are used for hiring, lending, stuff like that.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Everyone's wrestling with the same questions. How do you encourage innovation but also, protect people's rights and society in general?
Exactly. It's like a giant experiment, everyone trying to find the right balance. I think it'll be interesting to see how these different approaches, how they change and influence each other over time.
And speaking of global stuff, Justice Jib also talks about AI and national security. We've got Nvidia, their AI business getting caught in the middle of U.S.-China tensions, the Pentagon pushing for super-fast AI adoption, and even an agreement between the U.S. and China to not let AI control nuclear weapons.
It's pretty serious stuff. The fact that they're even talking about this, using AI in war, in nuclear decisions, it shows how risky this could be, but also, the potential opportunities. AI could give us better awareness, make defense systems more accurate, maybe even reduce human error. But, on the flip side, what about unintended consequences? Could it escalate conflicts? And then there's the whole ethical thing. Should machines be making life or death decisions?
Yeah, it's both fascinating and a little scary to think about. The what ifs.
For sure. And it's not just about the military either. Justice Jib goes into how AI is affecting society in general. Stories about how it could impact jobs, how AI is being used more and more in social media algorithms, even worries about AI being used in welfare systems in ways that could hurt certain groups.
Sounds like AI is a kind of a double-edged sword. Could make things better or worse, depending on how it's developed and used.
That's a really good way to put it. The point is, AI isn't neutral. It reflects, the values and biases of the people who create it and the systems it's part of. We have to be really involved in shaping how it develops. Make sure it's used to benefit everyone.
Okay, after all that, with Chesterfield and Justice Jib, I think I'm ready for something a little lighter. Let's see what Rainbow is all about. Rainbow. This is definitely a different vibe. Full of those, quirky AI stories, the ones that make you go, wait, what? Like an AI-generated artwork just won an art competition. Does this mean AI is actually getting creative?
It's a big question, and a lot of people are debating it. I mean, AI can create some pretty amazing art, visually stunning, even emotionally powerful stuff. But is it really creative, like in the same way humans are? Is it coming up with original ideas or just, mixing existing data in new ways? And what does it mean for artists? Is AI a tool, a competitor, or something else entirely?
It's hard to even wrap your head around it. And Rainbow just keeps throwing curveballs. AI medical assistants and scribes. Is that the future of healthcare? And then the Internet Archive, they got hit with a DDoS attack. Makes you think about how vulnerable our digital history is in this whole AI age.
It all comes down to this. AI is changing everything. How we create and consume information, how we access healthcare, even how we protect our culture and history. We need to really think about what all this means and make sure AI is used responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely. And speaking of responsibility, this story about the Swedish Social Insurance Agency, they're trying to reduce bias in their AI-based welfare system.
Yeah, even though they've been criticized, they're really committed to being transparent. They're actively looking into any claims of discrimination to make sure things are fair. It's a good approach. Other organizations should follow their lead when they're, implementing AI that affects people's lives.
And finally, the BB section, Books and Bravos. This time it's I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. Classic for a reason, I'd say.
Asimov's work, it's so relevant to everything we've been talking about, how humans and machines interact, the unexpected consequences of AI, all the ethical dilemmas when you have, intelligent robots. Anyone who's thinking about AI should read I, Robot. It's that important.
It's like I need to bump that up my reading list. So after diving into all this Next Service podcast, what are your main takeaways? Where do you think AI is headed?
I think this deep dive shows us one thing for sure. AI isn't science fiction anymore. It's here. It's changing fast. And it's affecting every part of our lives. We've seen how it could revolutionize things, drive the economy, help us solve big problems. But we've also seen the risks. Job losses, bias in algorithms, AI being used for the wrong reasons, like in warfare or surveillance.
It does feel like we're at a turning point. Like the decisions we make about AI now, they're going to shape the future.
Exactly. The future isn't set in stone. It's up to us. To make sure AI is developed and used in a way that benefits everyone, we have to have these conversations about the ethics of AI, push for responsible policies and regulations, demand transparency and accountability from the people creating and using these powerful technologies.
That's a powerful message. Thank you for taking us through this Next Service podcast and the world of AI.
Yeah.
It's been a fascinating deep dive. And to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and help build the future you want to see.